was checked. The puck sat there for a moment. Now York is shot. Score! Cam York's first in the National, and it's 2-1 Philadelphia.
This is episode 89 of the Liberty Yell. Danny Deemer here with Chris Stumpo.
As always, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, and we got a special guest here.
Another one.
And this is long overdue.
Yeah.
Should have had him on months ago, but we got the Cam York propagandist himself, Derek out of TLY. How we doing, buddy?
Yo, what's up? I'm finally good with the mic, so I am here to spread Cam York propaganda and actually be heard in the process, so that's nice.
Yeah, you got to be on cloud 9 now, huh?
Dude, Torts gave me so much material today. Like, I don't even need to share Cam York propaganda. The head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers is sharing Cam York propaganda on my behalf. We are Shaq and Kobe on this topic.
It's the same thing with Kevin Hayes too. The Kevin Hayes hatred. It's like I don't even need to.
Yep.
I don't even need to explain how his points are Mickey. Like he's playing on like the third line.
Torts knows, bro. He knows.
It's actually a pretty good point. I mean, you have like all these national media people and even like Hayes' friends who are going around right now.
Oh man, let's get into that as well.
Hey,
that really pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie to you. First off, the way Hayes handled that in comparison to the way TK handled his benching, I mean, night and day. Night and day.
Oh,
and, like,
definitely.
I don't think a coach should ever bench a player. What kind of comment is that? That just seems like big loser energy to me out of Kevin Hayes, and the fact that he was probably like in group chats with Ryan Whitney and shit. Like, this is unacceptable. I'm a point per game for this team. Like,
yeah.
it really bothers me. It's like you're not getting the fucking point here. It's not about like the point production. It's about the effort, and you're just not giving it, dude. Like, you don't check people.
Oh, skates by checks, and that was the one thing that pretty sure it was like Chris Johnson on NHL Network went down and like broke down his last couple of games, and the whole benching the point per game player from his buddies Yandel and Whitney and everything like that. Like the thing that got to me with that is like if it was just about the points, he wouldn't be on the third line. He wouldn't have been benched. Like this is, and the dudes who are saying this are hockey guys. They're former guys who have been in the locker room, have played NHL games, so they know why Kevin Hayes isn't playing hockey or wasn't playing hockey during that stretch and is on the third line right now. Like, you're skating by checks. You look unenthused. You don't look like you're into it despite being paid the money that you're being paid. And, like, he's being looked at as a top-end guy. Like, Torch is like, I'm looking at Hayes differently than other guys because he's supposed to be one of the big-time guys here. And he's not.
Especially with all the injuries, right?
You know,
like, he's supposed to be, like, the veteran presence.
That kind of brings me to another point I have with Kevin Hayes. Torts, in particular, is really big on knowing who you are. If you're an offensive guy, then be an offensive guy. And if you're a defensive guy, you better be a defensive guy. Here's the problem with Kevin Hayes. He gives no effort defensively, and he's not actually that good offensively. So what is he doing? Like, I know he had his little Mickey Mouse point per game run, but he's not a point per game guy. He's not Demi Panarin.
Dude, totally agree. Shit is so overblown. Point per game player. Like, first off, scoring is up. Like, I feel like you see all the time now, like, certain players be point per game players that normally wouldn't have been in the past. And what has it been, 30 games?
Yeah.
And dude, like, anyone who's watched the games, like, we know, like, dude, we call them Mickey Mouse points for a reason. Like, he's not Connor McDavid.
Make that up for no reason.
Yeah, like, he's not Connor McDavid.
To affect hockey games offensively. He doesn't.
He's not on the NHL Twitter account with highlights every night. No, it's like a secondary assist on a beautiful TK shot, like later in the shift. It's some Mickey point.
Kicks the puck over to TK on accident while fucking on or some shit.
Or his shot low that got tipped by, like, I think, like, Lazinski that one game.
Yeah,
dude, it
from
was
the
exactly
point.
Like you said.
Yeah, that had Chris crying.
Last episode, Frost will shoot that high glove side, and it is getting snatched.
Derek makes a great point about the whole identity thing, and that's something that Torts has said time and time again. I mean, and he kind of said it today with the whole York situation, talking about you're a rover. I understand that like, you have abilities that other defensemen don't have. So as long as you give me something defensively, I'm going to let you do whatever you want to do offensively. And that's sort of the thing with Torts. Like, he recognizes some players have some skill sets and others have others. And when Kevin Hayes, like Derek just said, he's not a offensive guy, despite the point per game shit that's happening this year. He has to be playing better the other way for to be able to be in the top 6, and that's the entire reason why you're not seeing him in the top 6. And I think that's a huge thing.
Sorry, I want to interrupt.
No, go ahead. That's just a huge thing that people
But despite the fabrications of our GM, the absolute imaginations of Chuck Fletcher, when he brought Kevin Hayes aboard for $7 million a year, we were given a speech that he was going to put up points, but he was going to be a two-way guy who played hard on both ends, and he was going to kill penalties, and he was going to do all that shit. And now, all of a sudden, it's changed. Now Chuck Fletcher is coming out and being like, well, we always knew he was not an elite defensive player. Bullshit. You told us the exact opposite when you signed this guy.
Yeah.
For $7 million a year, mind you.
It was the exact thing you tried to sell me on when you signed and traded for him, was that he was a solid two-way player that can contribute offensively. Almost word for word.
To me personally, as someone who is watched every game throughout this dark age of Flyers hockey, I've just seen players who have tendencies of a losing culture. They just play losing hockey. And Kevin Hayes is that kind of guy to me. His tendencies are that of a losing player. And I like that my head coach can recognize that and snuff it out after years of that flying here in this culture. It's refreshing to me. And anyone who says otherwise isn't a Flyers fan or a true, watching day in, day out Flyers fan.
Look, I have had some frustrations with Torts over the course of
I was just going to bring this up.
I have. I mean, you were bringing up about some shit we were going on about the group chat. Me and Mayor were going in on this dude about Morgan Frost. But if we want to transition there, Morgan Frost has turned out spectacularly so far. And this isn't just some random 4-game Linsanity run. For the entire month of December, this kid has been an entirely different person.
Agreed. No, I mean, Frost has been, like you just said, a completely different person. And I think that you got to tip your cap to Torts a little bit, because, I mean, even me and you in the beginning of the season when all this whole Frost stuff was happening, and even the toilet seat comment, looking back on it now, it was all necessary, because the way Frost, of course Frost had the really good first game, but after that, I mean, he had flashes here and there, but it wasn't anything consistent, and that's all Torts wanted. He wanted a good defense, just give me something defensively, and just try to be consistent offensively. I mean, like you said, ever since December hit, it seemed like he just turned into a completely different player. It was after the toilet seat comment, actually, to be fair, and which he found funny, to be fair.
He did. He said that, and I really like that attitude. I like the whole demeanor he had in that interview.
But like you said, just not a 4 or 5 game run where he's lucking in on points. It's just a guy that you look at and you're like, he just does not look like the same player that was playing in November, playing in late October.
Well,
and it felt like a build up to this point with the production.
When I can, is that tracking shit, and I try to track all the stuff people are doing in the game that you might miss. And I did that for Frost. I haven't published an article yet, so I guess we're all getting inside information on this. I did that for Frost in the Columbus game. I did that for Frost in the Carolina game. This kid has become a forechecking demon. This kid is forcing turnovers at machine-like rates. It's incredible. And Carolina is a good-ass team. Columbus had Johnny Gaudreau matched up with him. And he was forcing turnovers left and right. There's a couple memorable ones, where he managed to flag down a puck with his skate. I think he turned that into a goal in the Columbus game.
Well, what period was that? Was that
he got an assist on that play. It was like the end of the second period.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he was
the defenseman's
impressive.
Going for a breakout, and he manages to intercept the puck
with
his skate.
And then JVR picked it right up. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do remember that play. Yeah, but I mean, it all comes down to what you said, and it's just consistency. And he just looks so confident. There's a whole
new intensity to his game. Is kind of the general point I was getting at. Before, it was if Frost ever got the puck on his stick, he was going to look pretty good. Now, but the whole challenge was getting the puck on his stick on a frequent basis. That's not a challenge anymore. This kid's forechecking so hard, he's creating turnovers, and he's getting the puck on his stick.
Yeah, and it's also keeping the puck on his stick, making the play and not getting rid of the puck as soon as it touched your stick to make the safe play. Like that was the whole thing with him, was he was just trying to make the right play to stay in the NHL, I guess.
To stay out of the doghouse.
Yeah, exactly. To stay out of Torts' doghouse. But now it's like, okay, I'm not going to get sat for one mistake, which Torts has come out and said multiple times. I'm not going to sit a guy for one turnover. Like the entire reason, like you give kids leadway to make mistakes because you learn from them. And now Frost is just playing with a whole different kind of confidence when the puck is on his stick. He's not getting rid of it as soon as it touches his stick. He's holding on to it, and he's being the playmaker. He's finally showing the playmaking capabilities that me and Danny have said on this podcast and have said that he has for years. I mean, we're not throwing our hands up and calling him the next fucking Nicholas Backstrom, but I mean, like, we're finally seeing the skill somewhat translate to the NHL over a long course period of time, which is, I mean, like, it's the top 3 story on the team right now. Not that there are a lot of stories, but it's a good story that's happening right now, and it's something that people need to talk about because it's happening.
This was an incredible positive break for the team if it happens to work out. Getting someone like Frost to actually find his game is huge.
It's huge, absolutely.
For the future of this franchise.
Him and York, him and York are the 2 guys that I look at right now.
I was gonna say York as well, and those are the 2 guys that seem like there was
we're going to get to
being buttons pushed as well, like by Torts. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping he was kind of playing the long game with both of them, and it seems like he was.
It's not over yet. Like there are still things that both of these guys need to do.
But it feels like it's just snowballing now, and it's only gonna get better. Like how can Frost become a worse player from this? Like he's got to be on top of the world right now, confidence wise. Like he's got to be itching to get back out there.
Definitely. I mean,
like he's scoring against Toronto and Carolina.
Yeah, it's another great point. Like he's not scoring these goals off of. I mean, of course, he had the Arizona game, the 4-point game against them. I mean, they suck.
Provorov sucked then too.
Exactly, but other than that, like he's scoring goals like against the Rangers. I mean, Columbus obviously they're not a good team, but like Derek said, he was matched up against Gaudreau on that top line. So I mean, he's having these games against good teams. So I mean, if he can continue this. It's just like we just got done saying. It's a huge thing for this organization who does not have a lot of things to get excited about other than like Cutter Gauthier, who's not even actually on the team right now. And
Leo Carlson, who will be on the team shortly.
We will talk about that. But I mean, we could get into York a little bit further because he has been really, really good since being called up. And I mean, he's going to be playing next to Ivan Provorov at least to start these next few games coming out of the break. So. What do you think about that, Dan? Because, I mean, we've talked about York potentially being next to Provorov and seeing if we can get Provorov right because he's been kind of off.
Yeah, I love the way Torts has kind of put more trust into York. And I see in all of his press conferences, he's like, he's a player that you just got to let him stick it out and make mistakes. And I love hearing that. Like, there is going to be no immediate punishment or demotion for making the wrong play. Like, he knows York's game. Like, he has to work through the early kinks to become a everyday NHL player. But yeah, I'm definitely excited with him being with Provorov. It's just cool to see him and Frost get trust in these like third periods. Like as a Flyers fan watching every night, to not see like Kevin Hayes out there late in the third. It's Frost, it's York making plays. I forget what game it was, but the game where Frost should have had that one-timer goal to tie the game up and that one comeback.
It was Toronto, right?
Toronto, dude, that clip. Zach with the Flyers.
Like they were going off that. They single-handedly brought us back in that game and almost forced OT against Toronto. And Toronto's on a heater.
They didn't, but that was absurd.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it goes back to my point in saying that he's affecting games against Austin Matthews. Like the Austin Matthews was on the ice when that play happened. So I mean, like he's playing. Having these types of games against good teams, which is great to see.
Top line minutes, getting matched up against stars some of the time. Like he's not getting Sean Couturier treatment. We're not seeking out the stars so we can match up Morgan Frost with them.
Yeah.
But he's just by virtue of where he is in the lineup, facing Marner, Nylander, Matthews. He's facing these guys and he's holding his own. Whether you look at it statistically, the numbers that I've thrown around with him lately are incredible. I mean, at one point he was like 9th in the league in expected goals per 60 among centers.
Yeah.
Or even if you just look at the eye test and the way he can take the puck from his own end zone to the enemy zone just seamlessly, no matter who's on the ice. It's really honestly been incredible to watch because I didn't expect you'd get this kind of Frost this soon.
Yeah, like especially with the way it started with him playing with Delorier and all that shit. I really thought this was gonna trend downwards for Frost.
I mean, he's definitely probably our best entry guy from our own end entering the other zone. I mean, the power play it's different because I feel like they have set plays that these players have to do because the way like you watch Frost take the puck in 5-on-5 versus him doing it on the power play, it's completely different. Like Frost has free will 5-on-5 to do whatever he wants, and 8 times out of 10 he's entering the zone clean with possession. On the power play, I don't know what they're doing there, but I mean he's definitely like Derek talks about it all the time. If they can get a guy who can enter a zone cleanly, like a Johnny Gaudreau, a Nathan McKinnon, obviously not these kind of guys, but if we can get an elite zone entry guy like a Voracek, like we had for so long with him, kind of spoiled. But like if Frost can be a guy that we can depend on entering the zone when his line is out there with possession, I mean you can put a ton of guys on that line. Like put a Gauthier on a line that's consistently entering the zone with possession. That's something fun to think about. So it's another thing to keep looking at with Frost because I mean that's a part of his game that I've been watching closely over the last 15 games, and it's something that's been improving with each game. So I mean he's been impressive there for me personally.
That's one of the awesome things about York is probably already the best transition defenseman on this team in terms of his way to either exit the zone cleanly or enter the other zone cleanly. I mean, I think he's more efficient than D'Angelo on that, but D'Angelo is his competition.
Yeah, I think he's better than D'Angelo. I mean, you could argue Sanheim, but
Sanheim's pretty good at that, but Sanheim's like really good at entries, like kind of freaky good. But I don't think
and then
he has the breakouts like York.
And then he skates along the boards, and then nothing happens after he enters the zone. He's great at entering the zone, but other than that, he don't got much after that. But
it's such a hard job because obviously there's the skating that everyone thinks about, but it's like the IQ and the processing to be able to make the correct play at high speed, repeatedly. You have to be able to do both of those things, and that's why it's such a crucial thing for a hockey team to have because it's so damn hard to find.
It's something that I've been very frustrated with Wade Allison. I feel like his processing speed isn't anywhere.
He's on that DSL connection.
It's not anywhere where it needs to be for him to be an effective NHL player. And obviously he's coming back from injury, so there's time for him to get it back to where it needs to be because we've seen him do it before. But I mean, right now the processing speed is just not where it needs to be, and even when he was on it, you can see sometimes he'll be in the corners fumbling a puck, okay, I have the puck, I'm entering the zone. What do I have to do with it next? He struggles to figure out what he's going to do next as the play is actively happening, as the puck is on his stick. So that's something that needs to get a little bit better with him. But I mean,
that's I guess that's why Torts had talked about with Wade Allison, just play straight ahead. Don't pretend you have the processing speed to sort out which play to make on the blue line because you don't. Just play straight ahead. You're really good like that. I actually didn't like that when he first said it, but really with Wade coming back from injury and me sort of seeing that for myself, it's one of those things where Torts aged very well.
Yeah, definitely aged well. I mean, aged well with Frost and York. If you look back, from the beginning of the season when you were throwing a hissy fit in the group chat about York.
Pissed,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, your point was valid. He could have easily been in the NHL,
and it could have gone the other way. Let's be honest. How many times with prospects does it go the other way and you fuck them up because you're going to send them back and forth on a shuttle bus? That's kind of what I was afraid of. But no, it didn't go that way. It really helped York.
Yeah, I mean personally, I think the going down to the AHL really, really helped him. So, I mean, that's something that you got to tip your cap to Torts a little bit, especially with Frost too. Even though Frost obviously couldn't go back to the AHL, but the way he's handled those both, like Danny pointed out, it's like those two guys he's kind of like singled out as like the younger guys. Tippett as well. And you remember in the preseason, he walked up to Tippett and goes, "I want to know who you are. Are you a banger? Are you a scorer? Like, are you like what are you?" So I mean it's a big thing because you got to figure out what you are in the NHL before you can do anything else. So it's huge. I personally think Torts has been huge for this team so far. I love everything that he's been saying, have said, and just the way he's operating. I mean, he's the only one in this organization that's like not a fan. That's probably openly admitted that this is a tank.
Yeah, the only one that says the truth.
Yeah, like the only one who actually says, "Hey, this is a." We're not winning hockey games. Like the one guy that you think that wants to win hockey games is like actually sitting here being like, "Yeah, we're not going to, guys. It's going to be a long process."
I wonder how many times he like practiced quitting in his office when he came to that conclusion.
Who?
Torts. Like how many times when he like saw this team and just saw how clear the tank was, did he just sit in his office writing up drafts of his resignation letter?
Oh, I feel like he had to have known, right? Coming in. I mean, we definitely weren't.
He probably did.
We were bottom
but
5.
It's kind of funny because you think of Torts as like the ultimate competitive coach, and a lot of people were talking about this, like, oh, Torts is going to drag this roster to be like 13th in the league. But that didn't really happen either. We're still a bottom 5 team. We're going to finish bottom 5. If not, we're going to finish 6th. And it's kind of the best of both worlds because we are really making some necessary personality corrections with like Kevin Hayes and Morgan Frost and Cam York. Like we are instilling a culture into them, or in the case of Kevin Hayes, buying them out, hopefully.
I mean, can we all talk about that real quick? Like the whole buying out shit needs to go. Like that's not going to happen, and if it does happen, it's an atrocity throughout like the entire organization. If they buy him out, which it makes no sense. Like you can trade him. There's so many other things that you can do before you buy him out and you spend the money that you would have to spend on him.
You can probably trade him at 50%. Like,
definitely.
I'm not as bullish on that as I was, but
definitely.
Part of me looks at how fucking barren the trade market was over the summer.
Like, if Nick Foligno can bring back a first, I can bring something back for Kevin Hayes at 50% retained.
Yo, did Nick Foligno bring back a first? Did that actually happen?
Yeah, like 2 years ago it happened. Boston.
Yeah. No, I got you now.
Yeah.
I thought that happened recently. I was like,
oh,
wait,
no.
What? Boston managed to what?
Still happened. So, I mean, like, you can't convince me that Kevin Hayes, you can't get a team to give up something for Kevin Hayes at 50% retained.
It's like, that COVID cap, dude. It ruined teams. Because teams were signing contracts to figures where their math guys were all assuming the cap would go up by this much and the percentage cap hit would be this much at this year. But all that's bullshit because the cap's been flat for 8,000 years now. And so nobody wants to make a trade.
Speaking of older guys, I don't know why it just kind of popped into my head, but I mean, Cam Atkinson is something that we haven't talked about at all since this has started. So, I mean,
other than like glibly mentioning that he died.
Yeah. So, I mean, he is...
Atkinson, Couturier, Ellis. Honestly, at the end of the day, like Derek was saying, it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's kind of a blessing in disguise because it doesn't give Torts the ability to drag this team out of better draft positioning, and we're going to finish bottom 5.
That's as long as Hart doesn't continue doing what he's been doing. And he's like been actively pissing me off during games. Which I don't think I'd ever say.
Yeah, that Devils game was ridiculous on the road against the Devils. Like, are you kidding me?
That Devils game was fucking torture to me, dude. He ruined my sanity.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been incredible. Like, if we give any other goalie right now, and I mean any other goalie, maybe who's the guy in Arizona?
Chicago, dude.
I always
Vegemelka.
We have him. Maybe it's the same because I mean he's just on an equally as shitty team, and he's has better numbers than Hart. But I mean, any other goalie but these two guys, we're with the Ducks. We are with the Ducks, and we've been with the Ducks since November 8th. Like we are the second worst team in the league since November 8th with 5 wins total. So I mean, we're right there. But if we didn't have this guy, we think about how bad we'd be without him. Think about that,
dude. We'd be chasing the Blackhawks.
Which, well, fuck them. Like I
dude, they are pissing me
right.
off.
Like, you're going to go from the Kane and Taves era, and you're going to go straight into Fantilli or Bedard, bro.
Like, bro, they can barely score.
hate it.
They can barely score. At least, like, the Ducks, some nights, like, they have, like, a good goal output. Maybe they have, like, a 4-goal game. But, like, the Blackhawks, nah. They're down 3-0 every game. It's so annoying.
Like, look at Arizona last night battling Colorado.
Yeah, Arizona battles. San Jose, too. They occasionally pull one out. And, dude, 3 of our next 4 games,
I know.
San Jose, Anaheim, Arizona. Like, it is agenda week right here.
I was just going to bring that up. We have our next 4 of our 5 games are against teams that, quite frankly, I hate saying this because I'm a huge Flyers fan, but we got to lose these fucking games, dude. Like,
Especially
Bedard has
Anaheim
like
one.
5 points this game. I'm watching. Canada's up 7-1 on Germany. Fantilli just picked up his 2nd point of the night. I mean, like, I'm watching these high end. I mean, this is an insane tournament so far. Like, this has been so fun. We have to lose these games.
I love the parity that's been going on in World
Me
Juniors.
too.
Right now.
Makes
As in,
it so
like,
much better to watch.
This
dude.
isn't U.S. and Canada just
Yeah.
violating people at will. Like, there are some actual good teams that are upsetting them, giving them runs for their money. It's been great to watch.
It's been really fun. No, seriously, like they've been like the Slovakia has been awesome. Austria has been terrible because they're all like babies. But like you said, it's not just Canada and the United States running the table. It's been a lot of good games. Like even Finland woke up after their wake up call against. I think it was who were they playing? I think it was the Czechs. So I mean, yeah, it's just been an extremely fun tournament so far, and I've just been watching a lot of guys that I want to lose for. So
Canadian fans were mad the other day. I saw some of them on Twitter after they lost. Like, I saw some of them saying like, "Oh, the World Juniors is not the stage it once was." Like, bro, it's just because they lost game 1.
What are they?
They're
Who
not
said
used-
that?
Just some rando bot
About
on
what?
Twitter.
Some angry Canadian, right?
Yeah, some angry Canadian after his team lost.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a very fun World Junior if you like hockey and close.
Oh yeah,
hockey.
no, it's just fans of the Canadian World Junior team are not used to losing the first game of group play. They're just not used to it.
They're up 7-1
Nah.
right now, so I mean, you're cool. Like you're gonna be able to
You're
fight for
fine,
gold.
dude. But one guy I have to shout out, 2023 eligible, is Leo Carlson. I'm about to become a propagandist.
Yeah,
for this.
let's get into that real quick. Let's get into the whole World Junior and draft stuff because I mean it's a huge topic, obviously, within the entire fan base. So, I mean, we might as well hop into that conversation now. So, Derek,
I mean, a lot of the qualities that Fantilli brings, that mix of size and skill and speed, you see from Leo Carlson.
yeah,
There's subtle differences. Like Fantilli's got a better shot than Carlson, no question, but Carlson's got a level of vision and a passing ability that Fantilli just doesn't have.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even go that far as say he's got a better shot. I mean, Carson's shot, like me and you were sitting here the other watching Sweden. I think it was yesterday. I mean, he has a better shot than people think.
100%. It's good. I mean, his release could be a little quicker, but once that puck is off his stick, it can fly.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, because we're talking about quick releases, I guess we can throw out that Cutter Gauthier looks fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't scored a goal yet, but he's got 2 assists in this last game, and then in the first game, he probably should have scored a goal, but he had the puck luck of Morgan Frost in November.
Yeah. And he had, check his shots on goal in his first 2 games. I'm pretty sure it's
6.
close to 10. No, I mean the
6
first
of them.
2 games combined.
Oh, yeah, first 2? Dude, dozen.
yeah,
Has to be a dozen.
definitely more, either right at 10 or maybe a little bit more than 10. But he's definitely, like, he's just been. I knew his shot was good, but I didn't know it was this good. Like, this kid has a shot where 95% of the time I don't even see the shot itself, and the way that it comes off his stick, I mean, he can shoot the puck with the best of them. The way he can shoot it is just incredible. I'm not trying to, like, talk him up because he's a Flyers prospect and all that bullshit, but I mean, like, this kid has one of the best shots that I've seen in a really long time. Like, his shot is better than Forrester's. I don't give a fuck. Like,
No,
Forrester,
100% is.
yeah, like, Forrester's got a good shot, got a great slap shot, but I mean, this kid,
Just
it's
the wrist
insane.
shot.
Yeah, like, you
How
can play
many-
him I'm sorry, you can play him in the bumper on the power play with ease. Like you can play him on the wall, you can play him on the bumper, because the way he can take a pass in and release it within like 0.2 of a second is just incredible to watch. I mean, it's really, really, really fun.
It's insanity. And the other thing I really like about his game, and nobody talks about it because he gets so much renown for his goal scoring, which is well deserved.
Yeah.
But he's a better passer than a lot of people think.
He is.
If you just watch the passes he can make in transition and like the processing speed, like we were talking about with Wade Allison, it's the opposite with Cutter. This kid makes decisions at lightning speed.
Yeah, he does.
And it's super translatable to the NHL. That is one of the most projectable NHL qualities you can have. And you combine that with his shot, and it's hard not to get really hyped about this kid.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point with him playing an NHL type of style, because the points aren't there right now, and not everything is about points and the stat sheet and stuff like that. Because if you actually have been watching him and the way he can pick up a puck in the neutral zone and get his feet moving and really get up a wall and get the play moving is incredible to watch. Like he's made a couple of plays through the neutral zone with speed and just going inside with his size and not being afraid to really get physical. I mean, it's just like you said, he's playing an NHL game right now, and like I think he's like trying to get ready for the NHL in the way that he's playing. It was like instead of like trying the fancy move, he tries he makes sure he gets the puck deep. You know what I mean? Like, he's just playing NHL hockey right now, and he's got the size for it. I mean, he is a big dude with some skill. So yeah, like you said, it's hard not to get excited about him.
Especially because he's learning shit so quickly. Like, I feel like if you watch Cutter right now, this is a different player than the Cutter of the National Development Program before he was drafted.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
And whenever you have a guy with his physical tools who is learning that quickly, that's the last time I remember that happening was Maurice Sider. I mean, that was a defenseman.
Yeah.
But I just mean that guy who people thought he was a bit of a reach, who just suddenly explodes, and now Detroit fans are calling him the next Nick Lidstrom. And it's because you have these like supreme athletes like Sider was and like Cutter is, and if they can learn shit, if they can develop their skills, there is no ceiling.
No, definitely not. I mean, you got a guy Cutter, and you can't, like you said, you can't pinpoint what he's going to be yet. I mean, it's only been a year since he's been drafted. But Danny, right now, I need you to give me your top 5 prospects right now. I know you're not heavily into them, but if you could go 1 to 5 right now.
Bedard, Fantilli, Michkov, Carlson, and 5 is just such a toss-up.
5 is kind of like a maybe not franchise guy, but definitely going to be a really good top 6 guy in the
like
NHL.
A top liner, like Will Smith. Give me Will Smith all day.
Yeah, like there are a couple of guys that aren't playing in this tournament that you look at 5 and 6, like Jaeger, Benson. Benson's a guy that I've seen as high as 3, I think.
Yeah.
So
even,
I mean,
some guys who are playing in this tournament who have looked really good. Dalibor Dvorsky.
Dvorsky's looks awesome. Like, he doesn't have the foot speed that you maybe would like from a top 5 pick. And I mean, he is only, I think he's 17 or just turned 18. But I mean, the shot, the processing speed, the ability to use his body in the corner and get out of the corner with the puck is extremely impressive for a kid his age. I don't know if I said shot.
We were talking about it. It feels like there's a lot of similarities to Elias Pettersson in his game.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Michkov in the way that, like, he doesn't blow you away with his speed. Like, he's not going to look like McDavid coming down the wall. But, I mean, the way he can process the game and his hands and his IQ makes up for that. And it kind of reminds me of that and a little bit of, like, similarities. But I would still take, obviously. I mean, there's, like, Michkov's fallen off some people's boards, but I'm still taking Michkov, like, top 4.
Yeah, I'm still taking him 4. Carlson has left him on my little personal board, but I'm still taking him 4.
And I don't want to butcher his name. Edward, what's his last name?
I am always tempted to say Sale, but I think it's Shala.
Yeah, it's definitely Shala, because I heard like the commentary during these games say his name, and I'm like, okay, it's not Sale. But he's been good. He's got 3 points in 2 games. Dvorsky's got 2 points in 2 games. so far. I think he might have picked up another assist.
Shallow.
Yeah, I mean, like the top 5 right now is 3 to 4. No, 4 to 5, 4 to 6 right now is such a toss up. Like you don't know whether you're going to go with the guys who aren't even playing, and Benson and Jaeger and Cristal who can still jump up there. Like there are so many guys that we still have months and months until the draft. So it's
feel like
going to be
Andrew Crystal is going to be a steal for somebody.
it's going to be it's someone in the 10 to 11. I mean the 10 to 13 range is going to get a guy in him. So yeah, that's going to be fun. Could get into some questions. I mean, because there are a lot of them. There are a ton of questions.
I got them up if you want me to.
Interesting ones from what I remember.
Yeah, I got a couple of good ones. Yeah, Danny, if you want to go through them, definitely.
Bleed Orange and Black. He's always our first one.
That's our guy.
Most consistent. This episode equals fire. Besides the top 5 pick, what/who do we look for at our team needs? Even deep draft picks. What effect do we think Torts is having on the locker room, both good and bad? Is he building a culture? How do we pursue the tank with Hart being so good? I guess that one's already answered. Let's fucking go, the Liberty Yell and Derek. That's my guy, man. I love that dude.
All right. Yeah, Bleed's awesome.
I feel like a lot of those questions have been answered in the first 35 minutes of this pod, but like the Torts building what he's done.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a big fan personally.
Besides a top 5 pick, I think we can make a conversation out of that because it's really like, what does this team really need to be a contender? And
besides a top 5 pick, what and who do you think? What and who do we look at for our team's needs? Like there's a lot other than top 5 picks.
I think to address those needs, though, you got to get rid of some anchors. Dude, I keep looking at the defense. Like that shit is still scaring me. Especially Rasmus Ristolainen. And I'm not even trying to like dog on him and say like dunk on him and like everyone else has, but like man, that defense has a lot of money wrapped up in it for being mediocre, dude.
He has been atrocious, and that $5 million to pay somebody to make
they
your
doubled
hockey
down
team
too,
worse
man.
is just incredible.
You give a first up and then you double down with that contract, like. Man, this is Andrew McDonald 2.0, man.
I feel like in order for me to answer what we need on defense, I have to know just how high Cam York's ceiling is, because I think it's very high, and we're going to find out. But if Cam York's ceiling is as high as I think it is, and apparently as high as Torts thinks it is, then your top pair could easily be situated. And if your top pair is situated, and you just got to find a way to unload Rasmus Ristolainen, I don't know that that'll be all that difficult, because look at Stevie Y, who has been fleecing people for decades. All of a sudden, Stevie Y falls head over heels in love with Ben Chiro, who is basically Rasmus Ristolainen, and gives him the exact same contract and pairs him with Moritz Seider. For whatever reason, NHL GMs are absolutely gaga over Rasmus Ristolainen archetypes.
It is true.
We weren't the only team that was going to do that.
You had a line of teams ready to commit suicide for Rasmus Ristolainen.
Just our luck. That's the sweepstakes we win, right? Right? Not Goudreau. Goudreau, who's begging to come here. Nah, not that one. Nah.
Not the Brinkat.
No, guys, we won the Kevin Hayes and Rasmus Ristolainen sweepstakes.
And people wonder why we're bad.
No, I mean this it's the worst I've ever experienced as a Flyers fan.
I could agree with you though. If we could solidify a top pair and we look at that and it's like, okay, this is a winning top pair, then it does get much easier from there. But
yeah,
it's hard to do.
My thing is just you need a number one. You need a true number one defenseman. We can all agree that Ivan Provorov has struggled this year, and I don't think Ivan Provorov is as bad as people are saying he is right now. But I think we can all agree that Ivan Provorov is not a true number one defenseman. He's a 1B kind of guy, because if you could find him a really good partner, he's that good. But we need a guy who makes someone good. We need a guy who is a number one, eats 30 minutes a night, but can also score on you true number one defenseman, and we don't have that. We don't have a true number one guy. So I think if anything, a scorer, obviously, which we might have in Gauthier and Forrester, but if I had to if you told me you can handpick one person in the NHL, and it's not McDavid, it's not McKinnon, who would it be? It would be one of these like young right-handed studs like Cedar, McAvoy, like even like Werenski. Like he's a true number one guy over there in Columbus. Like there are so many guys within the league that you can look at and you're like, oh my god, like Darlene over there in Buffalo.
Which is what makes York such a wild card, because what he's done, not just this year, by the way. If this was like 8 games, I'd think I'm a lunatic.
Yeah.
But if you look back at what he did last year, yeah, the points weren't there, but he was driving play. It didn't matter if it was with Ivan Provorov. Cam York was Ivan Provorov's best partner, and the sample size was like over 20 games.
Like, I'm not surprised either. Like, he's an elite puck mover. Like, that's not a secret. So,
and
he's just another case of the fan base giving up on him too early.
Mm-hmm. And his defensive abilities are like massively underrated in the sense that his defensive stick is kind of ridiculous.
Wait, Danny, what did you just say?
It's like really fun to watch.
I said, much like Morgan Frost, Cam York is a case of the fan base just kind of giving up on him too early. Like, it's so easy for a fan to just point to Cole Caulfield and be like, oh, look at York. York's not doing shit. York's not... Like, no, if you're watching, like, York is improving, and it's something to be excited about.
And it's a defenseman. Like, in this case, it was even more obvious.
That especially. But, like, the casuals don't understand that, Derek. They don't understand.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, they just look over in there in Montreal.
What did I text Stumps? That it was... Now all of a sudden they want ear check over Gauthier. They want the defenseman over the goal scorer. What happened to the goal scorer over the defenseman? Wasn't that what we were whining about in 2019?
I know. Dude.
Honestly, whining about for 10 years. We've whined about it for 10. Like, when was the last time we've had a prospect with a shot like Gauthier? You know, something to be excited about like that. Flyers fans have been itching for something. Like
It's been a while. Like, dude, this kid's got.
Our last night was, I guess, Jeff Carter.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of as well. I mean. It's been pretty bad the last 10 years in terms of goal scoring.
Which is
prospects.
sad because like
we have like a fucking generational playmaker, okay? Like as far as playmakers in the NHL, you couldn't get much better than Claude Giroux, and we paired him with another playmaker. We could not find a sniper to save this guy's life. Meanwhile, Nicholas Backstrom gets to be paired with the greatest goal scorer of all time. Get out of here.
I mean, that's something me and Danny have always talked about. Like make power play 1 Giroux's power play, and then make power play 2 Voracek's power play, because like they're both playmakers who come off walls. So.
Or instead of giving Voracek $8 million to be Giroux's duo, it should have been a sniper counterpart. It shouldn't have been Voracek, personally, I think.
Look, could you imagine, and they weren't willing to do this at the time, but could you imagine if you had Jeff Carter at the peak of his abilities and Giroux on his wing? My God, dude, he'd have put up 50.
Yeah,
look what Giroux did with Yager, the ghost of Yager, dude. I mean, we say it all the time.
Couturier was like on the third line, and then he got put with Giroux. And don't get me wrong, Couturier became an elite player in his own right, but he went immediately from the third line to with prime Giroux, and he just became unstoppable.
Prime Giroux.
Couturier, another guy that the fan base did give up on.
Lawton's a guy that the fan base gave up on for a very long time, dude.
Like, these things take time. They're case by case.
Right now, I'm kidding.
There's no concrete blueprint for, like, oh, at game 75, this player needs to be this. It's like, no. I mean, you look at the career path of Morgan Frost, like the bumps in the road there, and it's like, I don't know. I kind of applaud the guy for the way he's attacked this adversity.
And because he was the guy who asked the question that got us down this path. Him and I were doing this little project. How many NHL games did it really take for all these stars that you're thinking of to really come into their own? And a lot of times I feel like people have this imagination that it's game 10 and dudes will figure out how to be Victor Hedman. But that's not how it works at all. Like, you'll have Tage Thompson, who took 100 and some games. Guess how many games Jack Hughes took? 100 and some games. Dylan Larkin, 100 some games. That's the way it is for most guys.
Yeah,
they don't come into the NHL like McDavid or Austin Matthews and just immediately start burking people.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. A lot of players around the league who are elite right now. I mean, look at the Rangers, who are still kind of going back and forth with Kakko and Lafreniere.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Lafreniere.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, go.
That's a case where, like, I bet Rangers fans are probably going overboard, but they should just stay patient. I mean, the kid came out of the QMJHL. I'm sure there was... I've watched the QMJHL. It's not the best league for getting ready for NHL hockey. Let's just say that.
Desnoyers better. That's all I got to say.
Desnoyers better.
Desnoyers clears basically everybody at this point because for some reason he went from a shutdown guy to one of the greatest snipers the AHL has ever seen. That's kind of an incredible story.
Yeah, he's been good down there. But, Danny, there is a question that I want to read. It's from Dom, DBala0325. Carter Hart should be a lifelong Flyer, but let's just say things happen, such as Briere in at GM and Fletcher gone, and we embrace the full rebuild. Do you trade Carter Hart to help accelerate that rebuild? Danny, I was interested to hear your answer.
No, you don't do that, dude.
It's an interesting question because if we're actually going to like buckle down and do a rebuild, a full-fledged rebuild, we don't get Bedard and they're like, you know what, full-fledged rebuild, we're going to suck next 3 years. Would you even?
I just don't see that. I feel like the Flyers ownership, they're so scared of that word that even like the puppet GM avoids at all costs saying that word. Like people are always like, oh, they're not on the same page towards the GM. It's like, no, they're on the same page. It's just one guy for some reason can't say it, and the other guy just doesn't give a fuck. Like he's just bluntly honest, like Tortorella, and just says it.
Desi just scored, by the way. He just tied the game up 2-2.
What a fucking legend!
We just manifested a Desnoyers goal. You boys realize that? 2-2, baby. Let's go.
TLY bump.
So here's my take on the whole: do we trade Hart to as part of the rebuild?
It's a wild
question.
question.
If we do that,
we would never commit to a multi-year plan of a rebuild. I guarantee we're gonna get some guy in this draft and be like, oh, let's go.
Yeah, but even if I entertain the fact that we were willing to do it, what is the end game? The only way that makes sense is if you have another guy that you are for sure
100%
is going to be Carter Hart, because if you don't, you're going to be the Edmonton Oilers.
As soon as you trade, especially we've been looking for a goalie like this for 30 plus years or some shit now.
Do you want to go back to 2010 where we're just falling an inch short because we have who the hell knows
Michael
is
Layton?
Our goaltender?
Just NPCs in that.
NPCs, yeah. I don't want to do that. Carter Hart is our X factor. He's the wild card here. We can do a rebuild on the fly.
It's his franchise,
because of Carter Hart, because of the play that he can bring. That's not worth whatever the hell I'm going to trade him for.
Yeah, I agree. It's a question that's not really like a realistic one, but it's something to think about as and we know that they're never going to actually turn around to us and say rebuild because it's just something that this Flyers organization just does not do. But if they ever did in this weird fantasy world, it would be something that I would think about. But at the end of the day, it's just like you said, you can have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on the same team, and you can just still barely squeak out of the. I mean, they just made it to the conference finals last year, so it's a very tough thing. And like you said,
then you got the 2021 Montreal Canadiens who get to the finals because of Carey Price.
Exactly, they almost beat us single-handedly because of Carey Price. So I mean, there's not a lot of things I'd be trading.
Yeah, and we only got to a Game 7 against the Islanders because of Carter Hart.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess that kind of transitions us over to the entire Briere and Chuck Fletcher thing, because the question had to do with if Briere takes over and he commits to a rebuild kind of thing. But just how as Flyers fans, we've been on Twitter obviously over the past couple of months, and Chuck Fletcher can't last much longer. We've never actually gotten any actual factual information out of the organization that he's on the hot seat. Is this guy actually on the hot seat, or I don't think he is.
Yeah, he looks comfortable to me, dude.
He's cool.
He's eating Dunkin' Donuts. He's chilling.
I thought it was going to be, give him December and see how this turns out. Well,
that's what everyone said
through the month of December, and he's still comfortable to me.
Do you know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping that. I mean, obviously, I hate sitting here and being I hope they lose games. But, I mean, at the end of the day, that is what's best for the organization. So, in the long run, I'm just wishing for the best for them. But, best case scenario when it comes to him, and he's just like the first Band-Aid with this entire thing, but he needs to go. Lose the first 3 out of 4 of this road trip, or I think it's just 3 games. Lose a lot of games, the first 4 or 5 games.
Lose all the games.
And maybe after that, like, they look around and they're like, oh, we have to let this guy go. Like, I don't know. That's just the hope in me. But I mean, he can't be here anymore. Like, he's got to go.
I feel like eventually they're gonna let him go as a sort of PR shift.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've said that. That's my theory.
When they have to say the word rebuild and they can't treat it like Voldemort, the thing that shall not be named, they're going to fire Chuck Fletcher, and then Danny Briere is going to come in and actually say the stuff that they were already planning.
Yeah, it's absolutely. That's exactly what my theory was. It was they're going to turn around, realize that like they can't handle the negative PR with Chuck Fletcher any longer. They're going to fire him and bring in the guy that everybody loves and can't hate for at least the first couple months of him being GM, win that PR, and then have the new GM come out and admit to, like, hey, we're going to be kind of tanking this year and we want a high-end draft pick kind of thing. Like, the only words I need to hear out of Briere's mouth when he inevitably gets hired is, we're looking forward to a top 5 draft pick, or something along the lines of, like, we're looking towards how elite this draft coming up is, or something like that. Like, that's what I want.
Just say that and go away.
That's all I want.
Say that and go down in the basement.
Exactly.
Do whatever the hell. I don't care.
Because top 5, I mean, me and Danny have talked about it, and he's not as into the draft prospects as me and you are. But, I mean, he still knows them, and he understands that if we land top 5, man, and Cutter Gauthier can be a guy, and Cam York develops, and Morgan Frost can be a dude, I'm not saying they're a playoff team next year, but I mean, it's looking up. Like, I'm not looking at a fucking dark tunnel anymore. Like,
This is why we got to root for losses right now. And anyone who says that's a loser mindset, I'd counteract that and say you have the loser mindset.
Don't care.
Because they will not openly commit to a multi-year plan. Like, this is it. And we lucked into it. We got some injuries, whatever. Like, they got Torts and D'Angelo. Like, they tried everything possible to not have this happen, honestly. But it still happened anyway. So, it's a blessing. You got to root for the losses here, because what's the point of rooting for a win right now? There's really no point. Try to sell me on it. I dare you.
Other than pride, I really can't. Like, there's nothing winning does right now other than, like, building a foundation with the team, or like anything like that. Like, the only thing that you could say winning does is, okay, it helps Torts kind of bring in a foundation. But other than that, it don't do shit, dude. I mean, I'm just being realistic. That's all I'm doing.
Like, I guess it somewhat depends how you're winning. If we find a way to fucking win our way into the playoffs because Morgan Frost plays like Artemi Panarin, then okay, I'll live with that.
I mean, yeah, that's different. I'm talking about, like, if they're squeaking wins away because Carter Hart's standing on his head and saving 45 shots a game. That's why
God, no.
That's not good for the team. I don't care what you're saying. It's not good for the team for him to be squeaking out 2-1, 3-2 wins, saving 45 shots a game. It's not good for the team.
We got to cash in here, right now. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
You just got to cash in this year.
This is a once-in-a-decade draft. This draft and something
it's
like it will
draft,
not come again for a decade.
Yeah, the top 4... The top 4 is ridiculous. I mean, you got Bedard franchise, Fantilli franchise, Carlson's on the borderline of franchise, and then you still have Michkov.
I'll go all the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you would. But then, like, Michkov too. Like, the only reason why
people Carlson propagandist, baby.
You have a lot of guys that you're propagandist for, but like. Like, the only reason why people aren't huge on Michkov right now is because of, obviously, the Russian factor, and he's not playing in the World Juniors, and he just got called up to the KHL, didn't have the best showing in the VHL, but, like, I guarantee you, if this guy's playing hockey in front of people, and granted, he hasn't been that bad, like, he's been pretty good since being called up to the KHL, apparently. I think it'd be different.
His first goal, which was a nasty wrist shot.
I think it'd be different, man. I think people are like, let it happen, because I am skipping
agree.
Up there to the podium and selecting Michkov. 5th.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, let it happen, 100%. Man. I don't care about the Russian factor. I really don't.
Michkov is going to be ready by the time he's like 22 anyway.
Yeah,
and that's the age you're looking for.
Exactly. And obviously, I care about what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, and it's terrible. But I mean, like, I don't care.
From a hockey perspective.
In a sense of, like, I don't care that I gotta wait maybe 2-3 years to see him because they're not going to be ready to actually compete until then. So I mean, if he can come in here like a Kaprizov came in there into the NHL, it's huge. It's huge because if we can have, like I said, I'm skipping up to the podium if Michkov is sitting there at 5. Like I don't know. Danny, what do you think?
I'm like killing myself to get over there.
Oh yeah, that's like a dream scenario if we don't win the lottery for me.
You hopped there when I was like, let it happen. You were like, yeah, let it happen. I know you had some thoughts on it.
That's what I was thinking about just last night, as a matter of fact. I was like, this is beautiful. Because, like, the GMs, they're going to buy into that, and he's going to slip just a little bit, and hopefully it's right where we're at.
I was kind of thinking the same thing with Fantilli. Like, if Carlson, like, Derek, if Dvorsky or Shala or any of these, like Benson, can push their way up to like top 4, top 5, like they push a guy like Carlson down, or like if Fantilli slips a couple spots, like there are so many guys in this draft that I look at, like if you fall and we don't draft you, that's when I'm going all out on the GM.
Dude, Grant McCagg on Twitter, whom I normally like and who does some good prospect work, he's really into it.
He is. He's good.
Before the season, he said the words, and I'm pretty sure he said these exact words: "Don't put Bedard in number 1 so fast because there's a guy named Dalibor Dvorsky." And that didn't pan out when we went into the season, but I think it makes the point. Dalibor Dvorsky, all these dudes are so ridiculously talented that if you took a like objective view, you would have to say, well, who knows, maybe they fucking explode. And they're a generational talent. That is what we're dealing with in this draft.
Yeah, there are like 4 or 5 guys that you look at, like, okay, you might not be on Bedard's level right now, but like you might project somewhere near there. Like there's so many guys. And
it's like 2015 with Matt Barzal and Kyle Connor.
And they're all dominating in different countries. Got one guy tearing up Russia, one guy tearing up the NCAA, one guy in Canada just destroying it.
Tearing up Viking country.
Yeah.
What's it called? Carlson is in the SHL right now. And, like, he's not blowing the league up and tearing it down. But, like, I'm pretty sure he's got like 15 points in, like, 20-something games.
Hey, yeah, it's a tough league, man.
It is.
His, like, draft year pace, as in, like, his draft year compared to other draft years, I believe, is still on rather historic levels. And the other thing with Carlson is Carlson follows the same rule as every other big kid. They're going to develop slower.
Mm-hmm.
Just because Carlson happens to be immensely talented, this ain't the ceiling. He's like any other 6'4" kid. He doesn't fully know what he's capable of yet.
Which is scary because you can just by watching him, you can tell he knows how to use his body when going into the corners and how to use his body when he's attacking the net with the puck. Like when he's already has that in his game, like an Adam Fantilli, and they're playing grown men hockey at 18, 19 years old. Like you said, like this isn't the best that they're gonna be. Like what's Leo Carlson gonna look like in 2 years? What's he gonna look like when he's 20? You know what I mean?
Like Jesus.
He has 14 points, 3 goals, 11 assists in 25 games in the SHL, which that's not bad at all.
Isn't that a lower scoring league as well?
Oh, yeah, SHL's a grown man league, dude. Like after
basically the AHL.
Yeah,
honestly.
It's right up there with one of the best leagues in the world besides the NHL. Like I think it's right below the KHL. If you're talking about,
so that's absolutely impressive.
As an 18-year-old kid,
for a young kid to be doing that 100%, and that's
like,
why he's projected
where
he is.
Predicated on being bigger than people, which he is not currently in the SHL, and he will be in 2 years.
Yeah, like he's playing with grown men over there. Like he's not bigger than them and still putting up some pretty decent points. As an 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old kid. So I mean, like this draft is just insane. And as the pods come along, we will talk more and more about it as we fall in the standings, because I mean we have a chance to fall a little bit here, boys. It is. Absolutely.
Dude, this Sharks game is huge. Like they beat us. In regulation, they overtake us.
I mean, come on, Erik Karlsson, 46 points in 33 games. What you got from me?
Seriously, turn up.
Please. I mean, do we think Hart? So what's up with the whole Hart situation? Because like the things that I can't get past is, what is he doing on IR now that he wouldn't be doing if you didn't put him on IR? Do they get some money in like the cap situation? Like what? Like he's starting he's on the trip. He's starting the 2 games after tomorrow's game. So, like, what does putting him on IR do? Exactly.
I'm not sure it accomplishes anything.
I'm confused.
I think it's because this guy's in concussion protocol that he had to be on IR, and they just couldn't put him on IR until after the roster freeze was over.
I do remember
the holiday roster freeze.
Yeah, I do remember Torts saying something in the press conference today. He's talking about, like, he has to go through a specific test.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So maybe that's why he had to get thrown on IR, like you said. But if that's not the reason, then, like, what the fuck is... Like, was the reason to give me a heart attack? Because it worked.
Concussion protocol. And my thing is, even looking beyond the tank, let's say they clear, yes, the tank, but even beyond the tank, which is number 1, let's look at number 2. Even beyond, let's say the doctor clears him and he can start Saturday. Fucking why, dude? This is a lost season, and your goalie is just getting over a concussion, and you're trying to rush him back faster than the Carolina Hurricanes are rushing back Kochetkov, who, like, stubbed his toe.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, but I agree with you. Like, there's no reason to throw him in there. And not like you're fighting for a playoff spot or fighting for a spot atop the Metro. Like, give him a little bit of time. Like, you have 2 guys who can play. You just talked about how you wanted to see Erson so bad. Give him a little bit of games. And then...
I feel like it's a little bit of Torts just having respect for the room and kind of giving them the best chance to win that night. And just not openly being like, oh, I'm selling the game.
Yeah.
He kind of wants to keep them in the game, keep it competitive, so they're not just completely demoralized.
I think that's definitely what it is. I mean, yeah.
That's 100%.
But it sucks.
I do wonder, does he, like, trust Erson? Or not Erson, I'm sorry, Sandstrom.
No, I don't think he does.
I know.
I mean, like, who gives a fuck?
It's pretty clear he doesn't trust anyone besides Hart.
It's like, even Erson, if you compare it to him, is blatant away. Erson got here and Torts was like, yeah, I want to get a look at this kid. Let's get him in the net. And then, like, Sandstrom's been here for 8,000 years and is like, who's Sandstrom? I don't know who that is. Get Hart back in him.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think that he's not too huge on Felix. So
yeah, that's definitely for sure.
Keep an eye on that.
Our boy Luke said, what is the worst thing you would do for Connor Bedard in a Flyers uniform?
It's a good question, Luke.
There's a long list of felonies.
Yeah, I don't know if we could say the worst thing on here.
I feel like I'd be admitting the crime to the NSA or something.
Yeah, the FBI.
Someone's gonna clip it and ruin this podcast.
Canceled.
Some crazy shit for sure, without a doubt.
Dude, there are a list of crimes, some Grand Theft Auto like shit that I would do to get Leo Carlson on this team. We don't even talk about Connor Bedard.
All right, if like a genie came up to you guys and it was like, you can have Connor Bedard. Bedard's a Flyer, and he's just as advertised for the next how many years he plays. But the Philadelphia Phillies absolutely crumble. Like, they don't make the playoffs again for the next 15 years.
The Phillies or Flyers?
The Phillies. Flyers are good, but the Phillies just die, even with all the players that they have. Would you take that?
Yeah, because hockey's my sport.
Yeah.
Sure,
Are you kidding
baseball, it comes pretty close. It's like
I was watching that Phillies playoff run, and I was like, when is our time? I was like, I think you can point to all the other teams. Like, the Eagles, they got their Super Bowl. Phillies had that run, and, like, the Sixers, they're in the mix every year. They got Joel Embiid, who's just ridiculous, and, like, whatever. They're fine. It's like, you look at the Flyers, though. It's like, when is our time? You know what I mean?
You gotta think it's 100%. Soon, right? Like, me and you talk about that all the time, Danny. Like, we look around, Sixers are good, Eagles are good, Phillies just made that run. We haven't had that kind of, like, 2010, people always, I mean, that's probably the first thing people would say as, like, a counter argument to what I just said. And even, like, my dad admits, like, that was not a Cinderella run. Like, they were good, but it wasn't like they were consistently a good team. Like, it's not like they were like Boston.
Never recapture it is the big thing.
Yeah, I know. We went back the next year and got bounced.
Recapture what? We got bounced in 2011. People forget just how bad and embarrassing that round against the Boston Bruins was in 2011, and people were always.
And then they won the cup, so it's like our comeback isn't even as like magical as it once was, because like the end result was them winning and we didn't.
So like my mind always goes back to like you have to think that eventually, within the next like few years, we have to get a break. Like, me and you talk about it all the time.
I really think we will.
You have to.
I don't know. Maybe it's the optimist in me, but I feel like regression to the mean is real. Okay, we've had so much shit go on over here that math dictates that
Yeah.
we are about to experience equilibrium at some point.
That's what I'm saying. Like at some point, like fuck math, throw math out of the window. Like you gotta get like, I mean, I guess it is math. Like you gotta get lucky at some point, right?
Yeah,
like it's
dude.
been 20 something years since we've like the last superstar that we've had is Eric Lindros. I mean, obviously you can make an argument
Like,
for
dude,
Drew.
I look at Tage Thompson, dude.
I put
I'm like,
Drew
where's
on
our
that.
Tage
Yeah.
Thompson?
Morgan Frost. That's where he is.
Hey, I'm here for that, dude.
That's exactly. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, look, if Morgan Frost wants to do that while we have Cutter Gauthier coming up and Leo Carlson, by all means, bro.
I love how he's already saying that we have Carlson.
I am. How do I put this? I'm manifesting it. Is
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Hey, dude, manifest Bedard. Like, come on.
Well, I've been manifesting Bedard.
Sure,
since
you
the summer.
have. I'll give you that. But like, could you seriously, before we end this, could you seriously imagine us landing that guy or any of these top 3 dudes? Like, it just changes everything. Like me and Danny talking about it off mic. Like it changes. Obviously, it changes Philadelphia in the way that the casual fan looks at the Flyers. But it changes it changes the matchups. Like, every game turns into like Sebastian Aho versus Adam Fantilli and the Philadelphia Flyers are so marketable, and if you can land any of these 3 guys, it just it
We're
changes
starved.
so much.
We are starved for something like this as a market. You got like Ed Snyder and the Flyers. Like he always would go out and get some big fish or something exciting. And you look at like the last 10 years, and it's like every move has been mediocre as hell and not fun.
See, after the salary cap error was introduced, after Ed Snyder wasn't able to go out there and throw his checkbook at somebody, that's when they like have it. Like Ed, obviously the spirit that he had. And,
yeah, but
and
even
the
Ed went
passion.
out and got like a pronger, you know?
True, like he definitely forced those type of trades, like, but he wouldn't be able to go out there and like throw money at like a huge free agent like he used to do, which, like, that is something that having an owner like that is good. Like, I think they should bring like a luxury tax to the NHL whenever those talks eventually start. Like, I think something like that has to come back to.
We just need,
dude.
as an
The hard
organization,
cap
we need
is
a
so archaic.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
casuals are excited about. We just need a win.
Yeah, dude, exactly. We need hope. Literally, we need hope. Everything is bleakness and darkness and nonstop humiliation. We need something to be proud of, even if it is Connor Bedard, who has played 0 NHL games and proven absolutely nothing. Who cares? It's hope.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like all these guys, like we could draft somebody at 4 and he can turn out to be fucking the next Del Cole or the next Bellows or something.
Just a reasonable belief that a guy is on the way to make things better and to make the team worth watching. It doesn't have to be real right away. It can be like freaking Rasmus Dahlin in Buffalo, okay? Just give us...
Yeah, you just need that excitement. Just to get people
Yes.
watching, get people excited, man.
Like, I want to not be able to, like, not care about... No, I want to be able to care about hockey past, like, Thanksgiving again. Like, that would be really cool of me not checking out and reading draft profiles.
I would like to root for wins again, personally. It'd be nice to root for a win.
It would be nice to actively root to win a hockey game and not deep down hope that Carter Hart turns into Swiss cheese.
Wouldn't it be great to turn on?
It's true, though, and it's
and
sad.
Be like, wow, we're playing the same sport as these guys. Because I don't say that right now.
No, bro, that's what I said in the Islanders series. Like, we're not playing the same sport as these guys. That's when I knew. That's when the realization of the next couple years came to me. I was like, all right, Matthew Barzal is skating around these guys like he's at open hockey, dude. Like, this is going to be bad for the next couple
that's
of
the
years.
moment.
Literal cones.
That's the moment when like they should have accepted, like, yo, we failed the Giroux era completely.
Yeah, dude.
Completely.
Like, they added Nate Thompson and fucking Ryan Grant as, like, the trade deadline guys, while the Islanders were over there, like, trading for J.G. Pajot, and that was our move. That it's just a fucking joke, dude. Like,
I don't think it gets talked about nearly enough just how brutally Giroux was failed in his time.
Me and Danny talk about it fucking plenty.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you guys do, but I just mean in general. I feel like people.
Nationally,
agreed. No, that's because the legacy of Claude Giroux, because of the Flyers, is one that is like 50-50 here in Philadelphia. Like, you can ask some person who's like, oh, he's a loser captain, loser player, toxic in the locker room. And then you ask another person, he's like, oh, he's my favorite player of all time. So, like, and that's because the Flyers did him so wrong and never gave him a chance to get to the big stages with that team and hopefully get some.
Any kind of elite player, dude. Like, we just got done saying look at Giroux with the ghost of Jágr. Like, the best player that he was handed that wasn't 40-year-old Jágr was Voracek. And I'm not saying Voracek's a bad player, but, like, Voracek was a elite playmaker when he was in his prime, which was like 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years. But other than that, like, that's the best player that Giroux was given his entire career.
A guy who couldn't elevate the puck.
Him at all. And look, okay, look, you see Colorado running around right now. Colorado's got like 5 superstars. Okay, they got 5, 6. And we had, let's say you get real generous and call Voracek that. Couturier didn't become that yet. So it was like Giroux, Voracek, and whatever the fuck they could muster.
Yeah, that's insanely generous, by the way, to call him.
It is insanely generous, but even you got 2. Colorado Avalanche got 5. The whole Lightning roster is superstars.
Yeah,
just 4 lines of superstars.
I don't even like pointing out Tampa and Colorado as like examples. Like, you could point at any other playoff team that could possibly make a playoff. Like, you could look at the Dallas Stars. You could point at them.
Fucking hell.
Like, even the Penguins, even though like their guys are a lot older, but like Carolina, you can point at so many different teams, and you're like, that guy would be the best player on the Flyers without a question besides Hart. Like, you point at Carolina, Taro Teravainen is probably our best player if he's on the Flyers. He might be.
Andrei Svechnikov.
Yeah,
is
like
basically Russian cutter ceiling.
There's so many guys that you can point at in the league on different teams that are not Tampa and Colorado, the obvious ones. Like Toronto is another obvious one. Like,
it feels like such an arms race in the NHL nowadays, and by that I mean like the talent is becoming so widespread and so much talent is coming into the league that it's like your main goal is to just stack as much talent as humanly possible.
My thing with like building an NHL team was you need a goalie, obviously, but you need that franchise defenseman, at least one, and then you need 2 superstars at least to compete.
Yeah.
At least. But you have to build, like, obviously we just talked about Tampa and what they have, but Colorado has McKinnon and Rantanen, and like those are just 2 guys that I look at along with Makar. Like if I'm a GM, I'm looking at those 3 guys and being like, holy fuck, I'm good for the next like 11 years, as long as I'm not the most incompetent person in the fucking world and put an AHL team behind them. We're like in cup runs for the next 8 years. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ, 3 borderline generational talents on the same team. It is absolutely nuts.
But they are generational. Like McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar are all generational talents. And then you look over there in Edmonton, McDavid and Draisaitl.
Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Hedman. Like, oh my god.
It's disgusting, dude. It doesn't make sense.
Like that's what I mean when you look at the great teams around the league right now. We're not even playing the same sport.
No, it all comes back to that, dude. We're not playing the same fucking sport as
and we
people.
don't even need to mention Boston. Boston,
fuck Boston.
8,000 superstars. I'm not gonna say that because I got my McAvoy.
The evil empire. They never die.
Dude, out goes Char, and in comes McAvoy, like the number 1 defenseman never left, dude. It's incredible. It's incredible.
It comes basically like fucking arguably upgraded Chara. Like how?
Like, isn't 7'3", but is probably just as good.
Like freaking dynamic skater instead. Like what?
We never read Ryan Conway's question off, which I will read right now. He goes, "How soon until Kevin Hay pulls a Sedlak and moves back to Dorchester to play beer league puck with Whitney and Yandel?"
I feel like that's coming to a head in the offseason.
Oh, he's definitely going within either trade deadline. I would be shocked. 80% chance. No, I'm sorry. There's a 20% chance that he goes before trade deadline, and I think there's like a 70% chance he goes in the summer. Like he's like, me and Danny sat on this podcast before the season began, and we talked about what the season was for. And one of the things the season was for was picking guys that aren't going to be here. Was like number 2 on the list for Torts. And this is like the first guy. This is the first guy that Torts has. He hasn't come out and like said it, but I mean, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure it out that this is one of these guys that Torts is probably in the meeting room with Flair and fucking Fletcher and Briere and being like, yeah, this is a guy that like I'm not crazy about. That I wouldn't be mad if he's not on my team next year.
Yeah, he's clearly checked out. Like you could tell. Like even though this team sucks, like there's a lot of players on this team trying to find their way. A lot of hungry players, and they're scrapping and clawing every night, and he's not one of them. It's that simple.
And it's sad. Like those are the guys like. Everybody in that organization knew coming into this season that they weren't going to be good. They all knew they weren't going to be playing for a playoff spot. So it was all about who put their head down and still worked hard and wants to be here. And like Frost is a guy that I look at. He never his manner never wavered. Never said anything bad. Got called a toilet seat, laughed about it. Has always worked hard. Like
90% of the fan base hates him.
And he's just, he's never said anything. He's always just worked hard, and now look at him. Like, he's easily the best story of this season besides
Dude,
Hart.
I admire that guy as a pro. Like, that is a guy who has taken adversity throughout the beginning part of his career and never bitched and has just worked through
Talk your shit, Danny, about Frost, because I know you want to. Not that, like, he's tearing the fucking league down, but, I mean, it's nice to see.
He's like,
well, kind of.
Over his last 7?
Well, even before these points came, like, you kind of felt it. Like, he was always just kind of knocking on the door lately. You just felt that explosion coming, but it was like one of those things where he was so goddamn snake bitten that we just gave up. We were like, nah, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, I guess it's not.
We always knew it was inevitable. Like you just watch him, like that breakthrough was always gonna happen, and it's cool to see Torts with the button pushing, with him in York and seeing it come to fruition. And Derek, I actually want to ask you, have you done like a 180 on Torts, or do you still have like some skepticisms or? Because I know you were very skeptical in the beginning.
Was, with the whole York shit.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely done a 180 on the York shit. Like, he was right, I was wrong about York. Frost, my only thing with Frost is I did feel like Frost was going to figure it out on his own eventually. And I do wonder if that's just this happening finally because Torts, like, took his finger off the scale, so to speak. There's a part of me that wonders that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
I mean, look, I don't need to argue about hypotheticals. What actually happened is Frost looks like the best we've ever seen him at the NHL level.
Oh, without question.
So, yeah, I'm going to give Torts credit for that, even if there's some hypothetical world where he doesn't actually deserve credit for that. So,
it's actually a really good point. Like, who would have thought that John Tortorella would have been the coach to finally unlock Frost?
You know, it's kind of funny. Torts gets this rap, and some of it's deserved, but, like, that dude had a man crush on Artemi Panarin. Mm-hmm. That dude called Artemi Panarin a top 3 player in the league when, like, Sidney Crosby was still in his prime.
He rides for his guys, man. 100%.
Yeah, and, like, the stigma around him that he doesn't like young players and skilled guys.
Like,
he himself.
Like, dude, the Kevin Hayes situation, he wants to... It's about the response. He wants to see Kevin Hayes respond the right way.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
It's not about the benching itself. No, I agree. That's a great point. It's not about the benching.
Even like Werenski. That dude, Werenski is not the defenseman you would think about when you're thinking about the defenseman Torts loves. The Torts, if you get him talking about Werenski, just starts gushing about him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he did that for York today. Yeah.
And he admitted Werenski sucked when he first came into the league.
There were stories, like, Hart was telling stories, like, him on the bench saying, like, don't put that kid out there. He fucking stinks.
He said it today in his press conference. He was like,
he said that kid was awful. He had no idea how to defend.
It's exactly word for word what he said. He was like, that kid sucked when we first got him. Like, he did not know how to defend. Like, that's what I like about Torres. That's what you got to like about Torres as a player. Like
he's perfect for this market.
Openly telling you how he feels. Like, he's telling you, like, the same thing he's saying to the media is the exact same thing he's telling you when he's watching tape with you in the room.
And it's why when he does come out and he starts, like, unequivocally praising a player, that I really think people got to start paying attention because I don't think he does that lightly. Like him talking about Cam York could be Dan Boyle. He's not doing that lightly. He's not randomly getting excited about some kid. I mean, he called Morgan Frost a toilet seat. Okay? If he's turning around and he's
if anything, we know honesty is there.
Yeah. Frost was like, that was funny as shit. Found that funny.
It was funny as shit.
Was funny.
And you got to appreciate it. Morgan Frost has been through more shit in this organization than freaking anybody. He had every motivation in the world to just throw it in and try to get either traded or released or whatever so he could go to a different org and get just a fresh start. He had every motivation to do that.
Or at least maybe like a sour comment to the media. Maybe just something minor.
Anything.
But there was not one peep from that dude.
And no, he just like kept his nose to the grindstone. And I don't mean to call out Anthony Sanfilippo here, but yeah, I'm going to call out Anthony Sanfilippo here. He was addressing, quote unquote, the Danny Briere and Morgan Frost comparisons because if you look at their careers to date and the production, it's an immaculate match. And Sanfilippo talks about, well, the difference is that Danny Briere had that dog in him and Morgan Frost is entitled. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Who the hell in the Flyers universe, be it fans, be it coaches, be it the front office, be it whoever the fuck, was like anointing Morgan Frost the Messiah besides me, Danny, and Stumps? What, those three guys?
He had the hardest path to prove himself out of anyone. The hardest path to prove himself out of anyone.
You're telling me that he was entitled, like he was fucking Jack Hughes coming into the league? Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see that, so I can't really comment on it.
I read the article, and look, I'm going after a particular.
But that's kind of like the consensus amongst the fan base. Like people are like, oh, he's a soft player. He's a soft player.
Get the hell out of here, dude.
Derek's over here. Get the hell out. But like I said, yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen anything that, like, I haven't seen that, so I can't really say anything.
Yeah, and what Danny says is exactly right. It isn't even just him. He's not the only guy who ever thought to say that about Morgan Frost. Basically, everyone in this fan base calls him soft and entitled, and yet somehow this kid has had to put up with more shit than anybody. I mean, hell, compare him to Ivan Provorov. People in this fucking universe are still calling him a number one defenseman. We are on year 5 of Provorov disappointments.
Yeah, definitely not a number one. Like, if you're going to call Provorov a true number one, I don't know what you're watching.
And there are people still trying to do it. Not granted, the number's shrinking every day, but I think you get my point. There are people in this organization that it's like, they are entitled, frankly, in a lot of people's perceptions, but it ain't Morgan Frost. Hell no.
Definitely not. I agree.
Look at Owen Tippett, and I like Owen Tippett, but like everybody had Owen Tippett as the breakout candidate of this year.
Or Wade Allison.
Frost is the bust. They come from the same damn draft, and Owen Tippett had double the NHL experience, and frankly spent all his time developing in a competent organization, and now he's in an incompetent one.
Florida's definitely a lot more competent than Philly. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and I don't even mean to like completely shit on Owen Tippett. I just don't get how one is a bust and the other is a 30-goal scorer just waiting to break out. Please, somebody explain it.
Oh my god.
It's like they pick and choose. I mean, like there's patience with a guy like Sam Morin. Like he goes on like year 9, and people are still like, oh, let's see what Sam Morin can do. But Morgan Frost in year 2, it's like, oh, I'm tired of hearing about him. You guys labeling him the savior. Like no one ever labeled Morgan Frost the savior of the organization.
Like, it's something with the market. I think there's a real thing where it's like, oh, if you're a gritty power forward, then we got all the time in the world for you. But if you're like a finesse guy with the greatest hands you've ever seen, you better be David Pastrnak on day 1 or you're a fucking disappointment.
Fair.
Yeah.
Definitely fair.
Let's finish up these questions real quick.
Yeah.
Flyers season, how much worse can it really get? Don't even ask, dude. Let's not find out.
Well, we could start winning. That could make it worse.
You're right. We go on a heater for sure.
I would make it worse.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I want to put that out in the universe.
Yeah. I'm kind of upset you just said that because the thought of that's kind of sick.
I'm gonna find a way to make up for it in terms of like karmic balance.
And I don't just mean like squeaking out W's. Like if they're winning because Frost is snapping and Cam York is a top 2 defenseman, like I'm cool with that. Like if I would be okay with like the 9th pick if that meant Frost turned into an 80-point guy and York is a top 2 defender. Like if that is what happens through the rest of the year, which obviously probably won't. But other than that,
look, I do want to put that out. I have beat around the bush on this episode.
What?
I do not want to rule out the possibility of Cam York becoming a number 1 defenseman in the NHL.
I honestly kind of felt that you were hinting at it when you were talking about the whole Provorov thing and how we don't know what York is yet and stuff. But
I was hinting at it.
I know you were.
I want to get around to say it, but I want to put it out there. I don't want to pussyfoot around it. I think it is within his capabilities. Look.
Definitely.
He's going to get there, but yeah,
it's his ceiling.
His ceiling.
Anyone who says otherwise is just
in the NHL.
Honestly a hater.
Honestly, yeah.
It's way too early.
Obviously, not saying that he's going to become that, but his ceiling is absolutely a number 1 defenseman. As a guy
Which is why, if he works out, he can change this franchise. Not by himself, but like a huge part of changing this franchise.
I agree, man. There's a lot of things that we can go into this next half of the season and storylines that we can see how they play out. How does Frost work out? How does Hart finish the season? Can he continue playing like that? Does Joel Farabee actually start playing? Like, we haven't even talked about him.
Haven't even talked about him, and that's kind of telling. The fact that
do we want to mention Joel Farabee?
I mean, yeah, we can get into him.
It's kind of telling that he's that far under the radar that we haven't even brought him up. Like, that just goes to show. Like, he's been invisible. I mean, he's been a little bit better as of late, and he's turning it on. He's getting some time with Frost, but I need to see more. I've seen stretches about Farabee before, like where he's been good. I need to see it more on a consistent level. Like, he got paid. I need to see him step up now.
It's the exact thing Torts said about him. He's just the inconsistency with him is starting to get kind of annoying, kind of thing. It's kind of what I got from Torts talking about him was like, hey, yeah, like we can see flashes, but like this guy goes away for like games at a time. And
it's basically Morgan Frost with him right now.
It is. Absolutely it is.
Back in October, this is Joel Farabee.
But Joel Farabee like doesn't have the natural skill that Frost does. So like even when Frost isn't doing anything and like he has the flashes here and there, you're like, holy fuck, like I saw that. When Joel's not doing anything, he looks like dog shit, dude. Like he just looks uninterested, and he's just been.
That's my concern with Farabee, like long term.
Yeah.
This year, look, I get you can kind of write it off because that injury does mess with you for a long time.
Definitely.
And even in like psychological ways. I mean, look at Jack Eichel and the difference last year versus this year has made for him. So I get it. But even like long term, my issue with Joel Farabee is I don't see how he like produces a ton of offense at the NHL level. I see his ability to finish and to make a great pass for a goal and to score a goal. But I just don't see like Morgan Frost, and Morgan Frost can really generate at the NHL level when his game is right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that with Farabee.
I think Joel has to be with an extremely good play driver. So somebody like Couturier would be good for someone like Joel because Couturier
soon as he gets with a player like that, it's like his game changes.
Yeah, because
he's more aggressive.
Because he's such a smart player.
Mm-hmm.
I will give him that. He's really smart, and he's got like just enough skill to sort of put his mind to use.
And like you said, he's good. He's a pretty good finisher. So I mean, Couturier would put him in those spots. Like we get a guy like Couturier to put him next to, or we can get a top 3 pick in this draft and draft a Bedard, Fantilli, or Carlson, and have them center a Farabee. Now that's somebody that Farabee would look good next to because
even if freaking Gauthier is that guy, because Gauthier looks like he can generate.
Yeah, I still think he's a winger.
That's the crazy part about him.
But we'll see.
Here's the optimist in me, but like. Say we go into next year and York has proven himself and it's very exciting. Like you're going into year 2, like this guy's about to go off.
Mm-hmm.
You got Frost continuing this trend. He ends his year with like, how many points is he at right now?
He's at
14.
Like 14. If he continued this pace, I could see him hitting like 50.
Oh my God, dude! I would be a problem if Frost hits 50. I'm just telling everyone right now. I'm going to be, especially with the way he started, because I'm going to be doing a lot of cherry picking and be like, if you cancel out all the
after
Delorier
game
games,
22, Morgan Frost played it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
But like, and then you start like, hopefully Couturier comes back and he's healthy. And I say hopefully, like that is La La Land. Me saying that because I haven't seen it for years. And then Carter Hart comes back. Like, are you excited for next year? Like.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
like are you riding with this team going into next year, man? With that pick,
I've compared like a sort of ceiling for next year's team. I could almost look at us as like Buffalo with Carter Hart in net, and Buffalo with Carter Hart in net is a playoff.
I like that. I like
And
that.
it's like it's not ready to win a Stanley Cup or anything. Don't get me wrong.
No, you're right, but it could squeak in. It could squeak in and
It
cause
could
some
squeak
problems.
in, and it's fun, and you want to watch them, and you're proud to have some of these guys on your team. Yeah,
I want to buy a jersey, maybe.
Let me one up you.
One up.
Next year's team, I think, could potentially be with like Gauthier comes up, York continues his good play, Frost continues his good play. We get a top 3 pick that plays with us next year and is good.
Maybe Atkinson.
Yeah, maybe Atkinson, Couturier comes back. Like if all this happens, and that's a huge if.
TK continues this.
Huge if. I think they could be like that Torts Columbus team that swept Tampa back in like 2018. Like
that's a good
kind of team that can like is not going to make a playoff run, but can surprise the team in round 1.
They're causing problems. Nobody wants to play.
Exactly.
They're not going to win the Stanley Cup, but nobody wants to play.
Damn! I really don't want to go into Philly and face Fantilli, Hart, Provorov, York, and Frost. Like I'm cool on that right now.
You know what I want? You know what my fucking dream for next year is?
What?
To have dudes that these like NHL national Twitter accounts want to post about.
Dudes that you can actually market there?
Dudes that we can put on our social accounts for fuck's sake.
Because they can't market anybody right now.
You know what I mean? Like you got all these nasty ass dudes from the Rangers and the Devils and the Bruins that everybody's posting about all the time. They got Tage Thompson that everybody's posting about all the time. I want a guy like that so desperately.
Dude, we've talked about this in the group chat. Danny, I don't even think you were there during the conversation about like marketing and who we can market as a Flyer right now. And like the only guy is Torts and Hart are the 2 guys that you can look at.
It's so funny.
It's funny as fuck.
And it should be that way. Like Torts should be the most marketed piece because it's like what
because
else?
just this person. But I do want to shout out what Travis Konechny has done this season.
Agreed.
And not even because he's marketable per se right now, but purely because what we were talking about earlier, where this was coming in and being a guy that works hard. Travis Konechny came in this year, most likely knowing we were going to be epic levels of ass, and he's having a career year. And we're almost halfway in.
That's the difference between him and Hayes, right?
Game player. Yeah, that is, like you said, it's night and day. It is yin and yang. It is completely opposite ends of the spectrum. You can be Konechny or you can be Hayes.
Hayes. By the way, I just want to throw this in here real quick. Bedard had 7 points tonight.
I checked the score of that. That was insane.
7 points?
What? I was just talking about parity in the World Juniors. I want to make a single exception for Germany. Okay, I don't know why Germany's here.
And then there was just a firing squad there tonight.
Bro, like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? 7? Like, I understand it was Germany, but like.
That is not a real stat line.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Like, what the
that's
hell?
That's like be a pro rookie mode.
He had 3 goals, 4 assists. Fantilli had 1 point.
God.
Fantilli, what are you doing, dude? 1 point?
Fantilli's a bust. We owe Carl 6 bucks.
So you're saying it's Bedard, Carlson, Fantilli?
Apparently. It's Bedard.
I'll gladly
Dude,
take number
I'll
3.
say this about the NHL draft.
give
There's
him
always one team in like the top 6 that always throws a curveball. I feel like there's always someone
100%.
that there's always some GM big brain and thinking that he's throwing the ultimate curveball, dude. And it's gonna happen.
There's always the plot twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
The only team that I wouldn't want in front of me making that pick would be Yzerman with Detroit. I'd be like, chill, bro, because whoever you pick is going to turn into a fucking 6'6" monster.
Just written in the stars, like.
I'm cool on it, dude. Seriously. Are there more questions?
Will
yeah,
grow
so
7 inches and become 6.
Yeah, chill. Oh my gosh, that'd be
Parody
terrible.
Goalie said, have you heard of Cam Atkinson? He sounds like a cool prospect. Haven't seen a single highlight of him, though. We've touched on Cam. It's a very unfortunate situation.
Yeah, that sucks. Seriously.
Flyers Clips, looking back at the Sanheim versus Provorov debate, who would you guys now prefer to keep now that we're 30 games in?
This is a tough question because I still think like in the environment that they're in right now, I struggle answering that question for both players because I wouldn't be able to. Like, I'm open to trading either one of them. But
I agree with Stumps completely. Here's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, like there's not one that's like leaps and bounds. Like I can't confidently pick one over the other and be like for sure.
Yeah.
Had to ask me right now to pick one of them. I'm picking Sanheim because the ice time has nearly equaled. But I want to point this out. I'm not ready to pick purely because did you guys listen to Tort's press conference today? And apart from the York propaganda and all that, I really liked what he had to say about Provorov.
Oh, me too. I loved it. How he has to get back to his defensive game.
Yeah, back to his defensive game. No more trying to play hero ball. No more pretending you're Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes when you're not that guy. And just getting back to what you can do at an elite level. If Provorov can really embrace that message and actually go out and do it, then I could completely change my mind.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's a possible thing to happen. So I'm not ready to make that decision. But if you had to ask me who has the lead, Sanheim has done better with his ice time so far.
Yeah. And that's the thing. People were like, well, Sanheim's been better. Like, that's not really saying much. Like, because Provorov's been fucking brutal. So, like, I'd hope so.
Okay. Well,
I'd hope he'd be better, dude.
Another thing is, now that Sanheim has his deal, who is the more valuable asset to ship?
What'd you say, Dan?
Now that Sanheim has his deal, who is the more valuable asset to ship?
I still think it's Provorov, because I think there are a lot of reasons why. Like, I'm not going to just say...
It's like such a cop-out answer.
It's tough.
But my cop-out answer, like half cop-out answer, is it depends on the GM. Because, like, I feel like there's some teams around the league who look at Provorov and, like, I'm going to rehab him and do a Hampus Lindholm in Boston maneuver. And then there are other teams in the league who are going to say, I really like what Sanheim brings. His ability to join the rush. He's pretty good on the breakouts. He's not a total liability defensively. I just want that guy in my top 4. So it depends what team you're talking to, which is my somewhat cop-out answer. But I did at least tell you the terms.
Yeah, true. It's definitely tough. And it going off what you said about the whole Torts presser with York and how I think like it's getting Provorov back to playing a defensive game and not playing hero ball and stuff like that. And I think it's having York as a guy who's elite at getting the puck out of your own zone is really going to kind of help Provorov settle down.
And the real difference, besides York, in my opinion, just being better at it than D'Angelo, York is a far superior defender to D'Angelo at this point.
I wouldn't say far superior, but I think he's a little bit better. Yeah.
Nah. D'Angelo's kind of a disaster defensively.
He's been a disaster. Started the season out really well there.
That is true.
Mm-hmm. But like recently, he's been bad. I'll give you that.
Either way, definitely superior. And so what I was really getting at is Provorov doesn't have to like per se carry York defensively, whereas with D'Angelo, he kind of has to carry D'Angelo defensively.
Yeah, I feel that.
In the same way that Slavin had to. And asking Provorov to be Slavin on day one is a little unfair to Provorov. And B, asking Carolina's forwards were insane. They had a collection of dudes who all could get the puck at an elite level and make it so that Carolina was rarely ever playing defense. So D'Angelo not being the greatest defender just was not a problem for them. Whereas obviously it is a bigger problem for the Flyers, who do not have such luxuries.
Yeah, I mean, definitely don't have the forwards that Carolina does. But I just to kind of counterpoint that is, I do like obviously Provorov isn't Slavin, so. But at the same time, I do think it's pretty hard to like carry somebody on a first pair, whether like even though
it definitely is.
I don't think people give D'Angelo enough credit for how good he was over there.
He was survivable.
He was good, dude.
But I think, like Derek said, they had like just the overall depth and support to where.
And, like,
Well, the thing
I don't think
is he's like brilliant offensively.
Well, why'd they
He's, like,
take
spectacular.
Provorov and D'Angelo away? Like they were good for like extended periods of time, had like a couple rough games, and then like they broke them apart for like I haven't seen them back together.
I think Torts has like a love-hate relationship with D'Angelo, and it's because like there are parts of D'Angelo's game that Torts absolutely detests, namely the defensive game, and parts of D'Angelo's game that he like loves, like the offensive game, and the energy that he brings. Like I think Torts loves all that, but he hates the defensive thing. So I think that's a thing that we're going to deal with between Torts and D'Angelo, just like an in and out love-hate relationship with the guy.
I agree. I think it's going to be an up and down thing. But I think at the end of the day, I think we're going to see them back together at some point.
Probably. I mean, look, unless York just
Yeah.
the reins and runs with it.
Which would be
Then-
great.
Look, if that happens, I will be fucking breaking pom-poms out.
Dude,
That's the reason to watch this season, right? That's what we're
I'll be on
tuning in for
cloud nine.
nightly.
Dude, this isn't the Flyers. This is the Cam Yorks.
Yeah.
The cameo, yeah, seriously, it does feel that way. It's like any game where we get a Frost and York point and a loss, I'm like, oh my god,
Cool.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, dude.
That
right?
is
I'm
heaven.
smiling, dude. I feel like I
Oh.
feel like we won. I really do.
I've
feel
won.
Like we won the playoffs. We won a playoff series
won.
every time I get all three of those things.
Handshake line.
All
All right,
right.
boys, we're nearing like 2 hours here.
Yeah, this is
Wow.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good one.
Holy.
So we're gonna wrap up this episode 89 here of the Liberty Yell. You can follow us on all socials at TLY or at the Liberty Yell everywhere. TLY Danny for me, Chris Stumps on Twitter, and Derek Suitable Alias, right?
Yep, that's right.
At Suitable
And
Alias.
go floor.
Go Sharks.